Welcome back to Reverse Sweep presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code Reverse Sweep for a first deposit match up to $100. All right, guys. So this is the week before Toronto. I'm joined alongside Aches and Parasite. Unfortunately, MarkyB was not able to join us for this episode. But boys, we have a lot to go over in this episode. We have Toronto coming up next week. We're going to do a bracket prediction as well. I want to know what your thoughts are on this major and everything coming up in Toronto.
I am fucking so excited for this week. I feel like this stage has dragged on. I feel like we're getting to the point of the CDL season where we kind of just know where every team is sitting. I don't really know how much more roster changes we're going to get even after Toronto. I feel like we're pretty much at that point where we're just waiting to see what teams don't make it to champs and getting ready for that champs season. But with Toronto on the way, I'm just excited to see some LAN, Call of Duty, man. I'm excited to go to the event. I'm excited to see my friends. It's going to be a blast.
Yeah, I'm also excited to finally get some more top four matchups. I think, Chris, part of that being a drag from the online part is not getting enough of these top four matchups. And I think that's the one thing we get to look forward to at the event and looking at our bracket here in the winter bracket. We're going to get them early, so we're going to be a little spoiled early on.
Yeah, so I'm looking at this bracket right here. And is there anything about the bracket in general, guys, that surprises you? I want to say, like, I don't want to sound biased saying this at all, but honestly, I am very surprised with Breach. Not that they're 0-7, but how they lost all the matches to me. It's kind of disheartening to see 6 of the 7 matches were lost in a game 5 search and destroy. And we had our coach play for 2 of the matches because one of our players had to go to the hospital. So I want to know, like, for you guys, for me personally, I'm a little bit surprised, but I want to know for you guys, is there anything about any of these matches at all or the way this bracket shaped up at all that surprised you guys, or is this everything that you expected?
I mean, I'm just kind of like, if you're looking at the last major and this major, I'm kind of just see how far Vegas Legion have fallen since how they looked in the last stage. Even with Purge, they tried to make an upgrade during this split, and that upgrade ended up just being a severe downgrade. Their entire team started to fall off. I think Asim played terribly. They made the wrong roster moves, and it essentially cost them winners bracket spot, because now we're seeing teams like Miami and even Surge, who were pretty much at the bottom of the barrel. We didn't really think highly of any of them before this stage. And now with Real stepping in, Real's been fantastic for Miami. He's been able to help them get a winners bracket spot. And then same with Seattle, man. I feel like they've actually improved a lot. I still don't think they're the greatest team in the world, but going off of what I've heard from their scrims and then how they've played in matches, their S&D is still really good. And they feel like, and now it feels like with the new map pool, with maps like Vista, and Six Star, they've been really able to kind of hone in on a small map pool in respawns that's able to, you know, they're able to take it to the bottom teams and get themselves that winner spot.
The most surprising thing to me is Miami. Let's remember, this team is 0-12 on LAN. They haven't even won a map. And they're in the winner bracket of the major 3 events. So I think that by default is surprising. And they're also going to play FaZe round 1, which may extend they're likely to get 3-0. So that might extend them to 0-15, which is insane. The other thing is the Thieves, right? The Thieves sneaking in with a 4 seed. We kind of talked about it, but Subliners obviously had a really rough stage 3. And Thieves were able to grab a 4 seed and will end up playing Subliners round 1. So overall, I think, you know, based on what we saw, it's a good bracket, but definitely some interesting matchups to be on the lookout for.
Yeah, and I just think personally, outside of Boston Breach not winning a series in the last split, also with the Legion too, not only is it that they're going to start in the loser bracket, because I'm just looking at these loser bracket teams. You got Vegas Legion, Boston Breach, Minnesota Rocker, and Los Angeles Guerrillas. You're looking at Vegas Legion here, and it's like they were one of those teams that were creeping into that top 5, 6 discussion. Are they the 5th best team? Are they the 6th best team? And now they're starting in the losers bracket. And it seems that if they're going to have to play the loser of FaZe and Miami Heretics, I think either way, all these matches are going to be pretty competitive. Obviously, I don't think, and we can go straight through to the predictions if you guys want, but I don't think Miami Heretics is going to have a chance to beat Atlanta FaZe just with the form that they're hitting right now. So either way for Vegas, I feel like their first round matchup and losers are going to be tough. Same with Breach too. I mean, you're going to have to play either the Thieves or the Subliners. Like, I think that's a toss-up matchup, honestly. And I'm just trying to look through all these round 1 matchups and see after these round 1 matchups happen and then go into the loser bracket, how any of these teams are going to progress. Because for me, I really don't know how this tournament's going to shape up. I think a lot of teams made a lot of changes, and also the maps changed. A lot of things changed. So LAN versus online, everything changes. I don't know, man. I think this tournament is going to be really fun as a spectator, really fun as one of us who kind of watch Call of Duty all day and talk Call of Duty all day. I just feel like it's that time of the year when the weather gets really nice, and the tournament in Toronto is always seeming to be a good time. So I just feel like this is going to be a lot of fun overall.
Yeah, surprisingly enough, as much as when we go around this bracket, I feel like a lot of us are going to have the top 4 advancing. There are 2 key matchups here in this winners bracket that are gonna maybe be close. They have the potential to, just because 2 of the teams in the top 4 have shown signs of weaknesses throughout this last qualifier, and I feel like the teams that they match up against in this have some of those weaknesses as strong points. So if they actually play well at the event, which I don't know if they will, they can actually make some of these series a little bit interesting. But yeah, let's go ahead and let's start our predictions, man. Let's get to this bracket. Obviously, we're going to start in the winners bracket.
Hold on, Chris, 1 second. I just need to say this before we start. We've been doing the reverse sweep for about, I think, 2 years now, and we have a lot of people who watch the show who are not subscribed to the channel. Matter of fact, less than 60% of the viewers are not subscribed. So if you guys could do us a favor, we've all been OGs of the Call of Duty scene for a very long time. I'm sure a lot of you guys who watch our show have been OGs for a long time as well. Maybe some of you guys are new, but we'd all greatly appreciate it if you guys could hit that subscribe button for us, because we love bringing you guys these podcasts. We really enjoy it. And if you guys support the reverse sweep, we'd really, really appreciate it if you guys could also subscribe to the YouTube channel as well.
That was nice, Doug, because this is also a throwback episode, right, to last year when it was just us 3. So
true.
You know?
All right, well, let's get this bracket. Let's get this bracket on the way. First round matchups, boys. We got the first match, the Atlanta FaZe versus the Miami Heretics. Who do we got? Does Miami stand a chance here? Is FaZe going to steamroll them? What's the deal?
I got Miami. Absolutely getting world started 3-0. I don't think they stand a chance. FaZe have just looked so ridiculously good, obviously this year, but this stage in particular. And Miami's winless on LAN. So it's like, that's kind of the question for me. It's less about who's going to win this series. It's going to be what Miami are we going to see at this event. Is Real going to be a difference maker for this team on LAN? Because the last 2 events, like Miami have just gone silent on LAN, and it's been really bad. So, you know, more so who I think is winning, obviously, is FaZe. I just want to see if it's competitive at all on the side of the Heretics.
Yeah, what about you guys? A map maybe. Yeah,
a map, push the distance, anything. Like, let me just see some life out of these guys on LAN.
They look good with Real. Chris, they look good with Real, though. I mean, I don't know, but at the same time, just backing Pat's point, man, Atlanta FaZe, I don't know if you played ranked with any of them, Chris, but sometimes I'll play with Cellium and aBeZy and Joe Deceives. Teams don't even get 10 points in a hard point. It's scary. I mean, I know it's just ranked, but just they make rank play and the matches look the exact same. So I know they look better with Real, but I have to side with Pat here. I think, no disrespect, because I think the roster move actually did benefit them. I don't think they're going to win a map. I think it's going to be a 3-0 for FaZe.
I expect a 3-0, but I do see a spot that Miami can capitalize on. There is a strong matchup here for them. There's a high-rise S&D. I don't know if FaZe is going to play it, but notoriously FaZe does play a lot of high-rise S&D, and Miami is kind of undefeated on it. With their new roster especially. So that's a map that they could maybe take. They're a pretty good search team. They have been a pretty good search team. So if they are going to take a map, it's going to be that search, while FaZe is probably going to steamroll in the other 2 game modes. Miami just doesn't have the slaying power. They have made improvements. But if they want to get this to like a game 5, it's going to have to be through like winning a search and maybe upsetting on like a Vista hardpoint. Considering both teams play that map if they get it in the rotation. So I don't know where this is going to go. It's not going to
happen, but could you imagine how insane it would be if Miami upset them?
Yeah, that would be probably the upset of the year.
That would be fucking nuts.
Well, last event, the Thieves almost did it to FaZe round 1. It seems like FaZe sometimes does have a slow start. I mean, Thieves had a 2-0 lead on them in the series last event, and I think you could argue a fact that they had a really good chance of beating them. So, again, though, I think with Miami, since they haven't won a map on LAN and now you're coming into the next LAN, like imagine, like, I don't know about you guys, but if we ever went into a tournament and didn't win a single map, and then it's like halfway through the year and then you're playing by far the most dominant best team in the game, You're gonna have to go into that with some delusional confidence if you think.
Oh yeah, you need it.
You need that delusional confidence, man.
But yeah, so we'll move FaZe up. FaZe locking in. Win a round 1 first match.
Next up, we got the Thieves versus the Subliners. This actually has the potential of being a good game. Thieves have been looking like they've been in actual good form lately. They have some strong maps. New York has been on the fall off. They've been trying to bounce back. But also, I feel like everyone that's been like all the bottom teams that have been contending for a winner spot, like this is the matchup they were hoping for whenever, if they did make winners, while everyone else is kind of just like in despair playing against like OpTic, Toronto, or FaZe. What do you guys think about this game? And do Thieves actually have a chance here? Because I personally think they got a shot.
I think they have a chance just because of how, well, 2 reasons. One, how good Thieves have looked, right? Online, they look like they've made serious improvements, but also how sloppy the Subliners have looked. I think you were right. This is the perfect draw for them. This is what they were hoping for. Part of me is always just like, I feel like these top 4 teams will put it together on LAN, right? Like, not against maybe the teams that are better than them, right? The I guess the 3-headed ultra OpTic FaZe, but it's interesting because even Doug brought it up, the Thieves from last event, how they got an early hot start against FaZe. Like, if they're able to start hot, I could see them upsetting, but I'm just gonna go with my gut here, and I'm gonna say New York get it done on LAN. But I do agree with you, Chris. I think it'll be a lot closer than we expect.
For me personally, I think Thieves are going to win this series just because I trust Dan's team making ability, and the way that this whole team has been constructed, I feel like has kind of been through Dan's vision and obviously the coaching staff as well. But they look like they vibe with each other. They look like they could clutch up. They look like they're just overall hitting stride at the right time. I know personally these players very well. They're extremely confident. I would imagine they're extremely confident going into this match. I think New York has a lot of ups and downs. I think them losing to Toronto today with the lagging of the servers and Scrappy talking all this trash, I don't really doubt New York players and what they've been able to achieve, but it's very clear that the roster changes they made has shown more inconsistency to the team too. Thieves just seems to be more of a team to me right now. I do think it's more of a 50-50. I do think it could go either way, but based off of what we saw from Thieves on LAN last time and what we're seeing from them online right now, I think Thieves can win this 3-1 or 3-2. And New York Subliners, to me, it just seems like there are events throughout the year where they do get that top 12 placing. Even last year when they won champs, they did it. They did it this year as well. Maybe they're going to hit form. It's getting towards champs time. Maybe they just hit form and they prove me wrong here. But I'm going to take Thieves and I'm going to take them 3-2. I think it's going to go all the way to the distance. I think it's going to be like a 3-2, 6-4 search and destroy.
I think this game, actually, if Thieves does play well and Subliners plays all right, is going to go to the distance simply because of the vetoes. Like, I know for a fact that New York doesn't really play 6-star at all, and that means that Thieves are going to get a favorable hardpoint matchup, which is New York's weaknesses. But Thieves are no slouch in search. They've played a ton of Game 5s. They played a ton of S&Ds. They've won a pretty decent amount of them, and New York's S&D has fallen off. So if they're going to get an upset, this is going to be the time because New York is just not up to par right now in terms of their form. I think this is going to go Game 5. I'm going to give it to New York. Just because I think the top 4 teams are just objectively better and they're going to show up on LAN. But if Thieves plays anything like they do online, this will go Game 5. And at that point, who knows who's going to win. But for the bracket's sake, we'll move New York up. But this is going to be a fun match to watch. I'm actually glad that we potentially get a good match, at least one good match on a Thursday, because most of the time the top 4 teams just look way better.
Yeah, I think the S&D too from Thieves is what I'm really looking forward to seeing. Like, if they steal that game too, I think that's where this series gets interesting.
Yeah, that's the thing though. They have so many good S&D maps that they play. Even though New York is a good S&D team, like High Rise is a good map. That's a map that New York plays, so they're going to be objectively better there. I know New York plays a little bit of Rio. So does Thieves. Karachi,
yeah, they went up 5-0 against OpTic.
Exactly. They have a lot of maps that they can potentially match up here, and with New York basically having an auto veto and hardpoint, that doesn't necessarily hurt what is it called, the Thieves. That's where this is going to get kind of scary for New York. All right, Well, next up, we got another potential. I'm going to say potentially interesting because Surge is just a fucking roller coaster. But another potential interesting map here with the Toronto Ultra and the Seattle Surge. Again, reason I say potentially interesting because to me, Toronto, as much as like I have faith and again, they're going to get better on land. This is their home major. They're going to come out with something to prove. They have not looked particularly good at search and destroy this split. They haven't for a while. They've been pretty much the same in hardpoint and control. They've been fine. But their search and destroy is weak, and this is a strong suit for Seattle Surge. So maybe a little bit of upset potential here.
I disagree.
I agree.
Oh, you agree?
Pat. Yeah, I do. I absolutely do. I think Surge has been looking good. I think Toronto is finding their form. They did just have a really good win versus New York, but I don't know. I mean, I don't think Seattle's going to win. I think Toronto's going to win, but I do think Seattle is going to be able to fight back. I don't think this is going to be just some 3-0 slam blowout. You know, like I don't know. There's something about
most.
Yeah, there's something about like when I was watching Scrap talk all that smack to New York. I'm not saying it's like frowned upon, but I just feel like as a player, when I see that, it's like we've all been in those modes where you just feel like you're untouchable and you just feel like nothing's going to stop you. And then you just never know. A team like Seattle could just come out and blindside you, and you're going to be like scratching your head looking back like, yo, we just looked untouchable and we felt really good and we had a lot of confidence. And here I am now. Like aBeZy is doing his thing. Hook's doing his thing. You know, like 04 is coming in and search and destroy, making plays. Like I could see this somehow just going to a game 5 and 04 playing really well. And like it could be like the upset of the tournament round 1 where Seattle just wins a game 5 versus Toronto. You don't have any faith in that, Pat, at all?
I don't. I kind of see it as Ultra just coming in hot. Like we've been talking about this Ultra team a lot and like where they went and what's going on with them. And I feel like they need one of those series where they just get their confidence early. And I think the Surge is a good matchup for them to do that. Granted, it relies on all of them performing. And mainly, I mean, we've talked about this. That's Insight and Envoy for this squad. And I think this is a good matchup for Envoy to have a good series against and get him going early. So for me, I think this is a really important series for Ultra. And if I'm on their coaching staff, like I'm wanting them to give 150% in this particular series because I think it will set the kind of the momentum for them for the rest of this tournament. So I expect them to come out hot in this round 1 and get a 3-0 against Surge.
I think they're going to win. I think the only way Seattle beats Ultra is if for some reason Seattle just come out hot and Toronto just, play with their feet. But I do think that Seattle will have a chance to take a search and destroy just because regardless of how much Ultra should theoretically get better on land, especially at their home major, man, they just disappointed the fuck out of me at the last major. And as much as, I feel like they can potentially come back from that, this stage, they've been okay. I still feel like they should be better, especially like when they played against FaZe. They got fucking absolutely twerked on. Inside and Envoy have been an up and down roller coaster. We finally got to see them both play decently in their last series, which is, I guess, a good sign. But I'm not too hot on it yet. They gotta start this major off hot if they want to, show me that they are capable of even making the grand final, let alone winning the event. So, I'm going to get Toronto here, but Surge, I think, can take that Surge.
I mean, I think we should be careful, though, about saying they played bad this stage because I would argue from an online stage performance specifically, I think they played better than OpTic this stage. I think OpTic looked sloppier than Ultra did in Major 3 online. I just think the fact that FaZe handled Ultra so easily in their matchup is why we view it as them getting shit on. But, I mean, Ultra versus everybody else, I thought looked better than OpTic versus everybody else. So, for me, I mean, and yeah, we've talked about the home event cheese before, and obviously it's not done well for the last 2 teams. But I think Toronto's a different case here, and I think I'm expecting
Toronto's actually good at the game.
Yeah. But speaking of OpTic, our next series, OpTic against the Royal Ravens.
This one's interesting. I got OpTic, but Ravens do play better on land. And if for some reason Gwinn just comes out and plays phenomenal COD, Tyler Fellow doesn't shit the bed. Clay continues to put up high damage, high engagements, and contributes to his team. TJ's been pretty good. Like, I have no complaints about TJ.
He's been solid, yeah.
He's been solid. He's been solid enough. This can get weird. Do I think that's going to happen? Probably not. I think OpTic has still looked like the second best team this split, regardless if they've had some sloppy matches. When they played FaZe, I think they should have beat FaZe. They fucking were choking like every fucking map. Even though FaZe wasn't playing their best COD, they were still choking. They have the potential to make the finals here. I don't see Ravens winning, but I also don't see this being a clean win. I think especially with it being the first match of the tournament, a lot of the time those first matches, everyone's getting the jitters out, everyone's kind of getting warmed up, right, getting in that fucking right mindset. They could catch OpTic slipping and maybe take this to the distance, but I don't see them winning unless Gwinn absolutely goes insane.
You're talking about like the New York series he had where he was like a 1.5, just absolutely having his way.
Yeah, Gwynn's got to cook. They got to get the best absolute maps. Like looking at it from a map pool perspective, what does Carolina play here with
Rio,
OpTic?
Rio S&D?
No, I don't think if OpTic plays them on Rio S&D, I would be appalled. They play High Rise. They play Rio. They're probably going to play High Rise against each other just because I think OpTic would avoid Rio. I don't see them playing a map that Ravens is undefeated in. They're just giving them a chance. So High Rise will probably be a map. S&D, I don't think they play Karachi. What's another map? Ooh, Invasion. You might actually see Invasion S&D and what's the other one that we just said?
High Rise?
High Rise S&D. I could see if Ravens is playing well and OpTic is just playing as sloppy as they have online, barring their other matches. This could go game 5 if Ravens plays well, but I don't know.
Can we do a prediction here? I'm going to say a game 5 Invasion Search and Destroy round 11. I just think the Thieves, Subliners, Ultra Surge, and OpTic Ravens could all go game 5. And for some reason, I feel like the top 4 team is going to win in all 4 of those game 5s. And I feel like it's going to be close. Yeah, because it just seems like with OpTic, they're a team that gets the job done. They've been getting the job done, getting a lot of W's, stacking a lot of wins. Sometimes they look a little sloppy when they do it. Sometimes they look very controlled and dominant when they do it.
Has there been more than one upset in the winners bracket matches at an event before?
No,
like winners round 1?
Just major one. It was only major 1.
Not even this game. I'm talking about dating back to even like last year. Like at least like I can't remember the last time we've had like multiple upsets in winners round 1. Maybe I'm just terrible with memory, but this event actually has potential.
I could see it going a lot of ways. Like honestly, like this is the first match of the tournament's always going to be the hardest one to just build some momentum off of, and you never know how a team's going to come in. I think Carolina moving into the facility has a lot more camaraderie. They obviously have a lot of veterans too. Clayster, Fellow, TJ. I'd say that they're all pretty good friends. I think Gwinn is a great fit for their roster as well for a lot of obvious reasons. I think he's a good personality for just listening and just being like in his own lane and letting Clay and Fellow be the kind of co-leaders in a sense. And I just think they have a good team dynamic. And I think they understand they don't care about anything other than the game day and executing their plan. They're professionals as well. And I think they're a pretty solid team. Like Chris, I just feel like just like when they played Las Vegas, it could go game 5, round 11 on an Invasion Search. I just don't know why. I just really have a feeling that's going to happen. But I'm going to take OpTic. I'm going to take OpTic.
I'm going to take OpTic as well. I don't know if that'll happen. I just think there's potential there because I just think these teams have actually been relatively competitive throughout the stage in terms of the teams they've played, and they have some decent strong suits. So they could give them a run for their money if OpTic starts slow. But anyways, that's going to do it for the winners bracket.
I think OpTic's just going to clutch up no matter what happens. Even if we get a miracle series out of Gwinn again, which, by the way, that was an insane series he had against New York. I don't ever see him doing that again. I agree with you guys that OpTic's going to clutch up. And Chris, I like that you brought up like the predicting what the vetoes are going to be because PrizePicks offers all maps for every match, as well as stats like kills, headshots, first bloods, and many more, which give us the chance to make more educated picks. Unfortunately, MarkyB is not here, but we went with MarkyB's gut last week, and it was looking good as we started. Insight, their series was super quick against Boston. Hook had a great series against LAT, but then Joe deceives. He just did not perform when we needed him most, and unfortunately, we got 2 out of our 3 picks right. If Mark was here, we would blame him because this was going off Mark's gut. So maybe that's why he wasn't able to make it tonight. But we ended up losing off Joe to Thieves, having a pretty poor series. What do you guys think?
Sag. I mean, we did get the insight one correct, right? Which let me actually pull these up because
their series was super fast against Boston.
It was a super quick one. The Hook one hit. The Joey D, man.
He just wasn't there for us.
He just wasn't there, bro. He didn't show up.
Five more or 6 more kills, I think, and he would have had more. But
it's kind of shocking too because he's very aggressive. I just sometimes you just don't catch your form. Sometimes it just happens.
Yeah, it was unfortunate. Next week though, for the Toronto Major, we got 4 series. Obviously, it's going to happen on Thursday. These usually happen on Fridays. We got New York Subliners versus Los Angeles Thieves, Miami Heretics versus Atlanta FaZe, Seattle Surge against Toronto Ultra, and the Ravens against Texas, as we just broke those down. Before we get into our picks, though, I want to let everybody know PrizePicks has a new free square this Tuesday at 5 p.m. Pacific, 8 p.m. Eastern. Caitlin Clark will debut for the Indiana Fever versus the Connecticut Suns. And if Caitlin Clark were to get more than 1 point during the game, then that square wins. Get your entries in before the time runs out. Terms and conditions apply. So we'll try and get a power play in for our picks and include that Caitlin Clark free square. But
so even if she gets a free throw, Pat, like if she
just
gets
a free throw, 1 point, Doug, just 1 point.
Okay.
The thing is, what do we want to do to have a bounce back from Marky's bad picks for us to win this week? What do we think? What screams to you guys is like, we got to lock this in?
Wait, which day are we doing? Are we doing winners?
The Thursday, yeah, winners one. Yep.
I think we go with a Vickle less, simply because he's playing against FaZe, and he did recently just switch to a sub. Their team has struggled on LAN, and I feel like his projection should be decent just because he's had good games online. He's had his off games, but he's also had good games on LAN on their major split, especially their last one. So it's going to be elevated, but they are going against FaZe, and the FaZe is going to make that a quick one. And even if they don't, I don't think Vickle's going to play well because he's shooting against the Tiny Terrors and Simp and aBeZy, and those guys, especially Simp on LAN, they are gods. So I think that would be a solid one to go.
I agree because Vickle is like a similar player to a lot of other like role players in a sense. Like he's going to encourage team flow, and Real is a baiter and he's going to try to slay and get his kills. So naturally, that's a really good dynamic. And naturally, when you play against Atlanta FaZe, the player that enforces the team flow is probably the player who's going to put up the least stats. So Chris, I agree. I think a Vickle less is a great pick.
Okay, I like that. I'm on board. And remember, we usually do threes. Like we cut it down to do 3 picks instead of 4. But since it's a major, we want to go big, go back to 4 for this event. 4 picks.
We could if we want to do a little bounce back. If we hit, that's going to be big.
Or do we want to just do 1 pick per person on the panel? And we all have a pick, and if you miss your pick, you get flamed in the next episode. Because I think your pick's really good.
Wait,
Chris.
I'm actually down. This will make it an interesting game where we all have to pick one. So there's mine. I took the Vickle.
Well, we got to figure out what Mark's pick is if we want 4.
Well, I mean, we can do 3 or somebody. I'll take 2. I'm down to take 2. I'm going all in here.
All right. Well, you do kind of have a freebie with Vickle. I feel like that's a good
I'll take
call.
the freebie. All right.
That's fine. That's fine. We'll give him another one.
Do you want me to do my second one now, or do you guys want to take some?
Any series? What do you got?
Oh, frick, dude. All right. I'm going to go with the Seattle Surge, and I am going to go aBeZy less. aBeZy has been getting pooped on, even if his projection is low. I think Toronto is going to make short work of them simply because they're just a better team, and it's going to be their home major, so they are going to fry.
Those are good. I'm going to go with Scrappy more. I just think Scrappy's looked insane. He hasn't fallen off whatsoever. And even though his projection is going to be high, I just have confidence in him to be on LAN, home event, talking shit, them coming out hot against the Surge. I'm just going to go Scrappy more.
Okay, I'm going to go with the Pred more here. I just feel like Pred's been in a really good form and a really good rhythm. I think OpTic's been in a great, consistent place where no matter what happens, they seem to get a win. I think that this series is going to go far beyond a 3-0. And if it was to be a 3-0, I think Pred's going to have a big part in that. So I'm going to go with the Pred more.
Jeez, we got Vickle less, Brezzy less, Scrap more, and Pred more. Do we want to add one more to it? Like, what about the Thieves Subliners here? Are we going? That's
a
big?
Scary one.
That's a scary
really
series,
one,
man.
That's
That's
fair.
a scary series.
That's fair.
I don't know
Okay.
about that one, man.
Alrighty, I like our picks, our 4. If PrizePicks is able to put up the COD event in time, we'll pair it with that Caitlin Clark square. But otherwise, that's going to do it for our picks, and we'll get those submitted. Remember, download the app today and use code REVERSESWEEP for a first deposit match up to $100.
All right, let's get back to this bracket. Now that we've done the winners bracket, first rounds, we're going to dive right on into the loser bracket, starting with the Miami Heretics versus the Vegas Legion. Again, with Miami still looking a lot better with Real. I think the Vegas Legion now with Johnny on the roster, they're due for a bounce back. They played recently and they looked really good against the Boston Breach. Johnny was playing really well, putting up high damage, high engagements, exactly what I expected of him. Gio's been looking a lot better. Attach had a good series. Nero had a good series. Listen, sorry, Doug. I know it's not much because the Boston Breach, but they looked great, even though they went game 5. I think they're going to iron out their S&D and their control, and they're going to be able to beat the Miami Heretics here.
I can't disagree with that, honestly. I can't disagree just because I feel like Vegas has taken a big step backwards, obviously. But at the same time, Johnny is a player who does have a lot to prove, and he is a very confident player as well. I think Miami, as a team, psychologically, if you haven't won a map on LAN, then you're playing Atlanta FaZe. We're going to assume they lose to Atlanta FaZe. This would be the bounce back series, but I don't know. I trust in Dylan Attach. I trust in Johnny's debut on LAN with the Vegas Legion. Miami has a very trustworthy foundation of not winning maps on LAN. I just think there's a lot that would go right for them to win. I feel like the players on Vegas Legion could just figure out ways to edge this game out and win this 3-1 or 3-2. If it was going to go to the distance, I think Vegas would clutch up and win it.
I will say Miami has been looking more organized in terms of how they play the game. Way less chaotic, way less of that like hectic Spanish style of COD. So they got a chance here. They could. I feel like I honestly, going based off the online results, I know they just picked up Vegas. Just picked up Johnny. The smarter pick is Miami, but I think Vegas
is it though, Chris?
Win.
Because
even with the LAN cheese, I get it. Like it's hard to pick a team when they haven't won on LAN.
But they're going to be 0-15 when they play this team.
I know, but just like if I'm looking at just online results of this stage, I'm not looking at the past. Miami, I think, have the edge here. But I'm just going to go with Vegas because I think they're going to just they're going to get back into form with Johnny on their team.
I think Miami is much better team than they were previously, but I just feel like there's Real is a great fit for them, but I think there's a mental aspect, and to me, I just don't know if they're going to turn it around. I mean, to be winless within a season is insane, and especially if you're coming off a loss to FaZe, I think there's a world where there might be an 0-18 Miami Heretics after this event. I'm going to go Legion, and I'm going to go 3-0. I just think that there's a mental block for them somewhere, and I don't think they're going to get it figured out. So I'm moving Legion forward with you guys.
Next up, we have the Thieves versus Boston Breach. Look, I'm going to be the first to say it. At some point, man, it's not about how many times you get beat down. It's how many times you step back up. Boston Breach versus LA Thieves. This was one of the matchups online that looked a little bit more every match was pretty close for the most part, besides for the Toronto game. And then the Thieves game, it looked like Thieves was just slightly better in a lot of different ways, and they kind of controllingly won the match 3-1. I can't go against Boston. I have to see them do something special, bring something together. It is LAN. The stage has just been nothing short of just massive disappointment, not winning a single series, winning one search and destroy, being the absolute kryptonite as to why you haven't been able to win a series. I think Thieves has a better search and destroy. I think that Boston matches up decent in Respawn versus them. Just because I support Boston Breach here, I got to go with the 3-2 for the Breach. And I think
you got
maybe
them
on
winning
LAN,
a game 5.
listen, maybe on LAN, it'll just be different. Maybe on LAN, the search and destroy is going to change up. You know, like, I'm not in the camp every day. I'm not seeing how the adjustments are being made, but I got to stay loyal with Boston Breach. I got to see them win this. I got to see a 3-2 for Breach.
Doug is fucking cooked, bro.
I respect
Thieves
the dedication.
win this series, bro. Thieves are going to win this series regardless of how it went. Boston is just 2 down in the dumps. Boston have basically a 0 chance at qualifying for champs. It's cooked. It's over. Boston loses this series. It doesn't
Jesus
matter.
Chris,
what.
let them live. Let them
It's chalked,
live.
bro. It's so chalked.
Look, I think if Breach was going up against any other team, I think we could make a case, but I feel like Thieves S&D is too good. Their respawn is solid. I don't think Breach can get it done against this Thieves team. They're playing probably the best team of the bottom 8 teams. So yeah, I got these.
This is classic Thieves if they lose this, though. Like, this would be classic if they lose this.
This would actually be really bad for Thieves too, especially after having such a good online stage, getting into that like middle of the pack point wise. If they come out and get 12th here at this event, it's going to be really bad for them going forward. So yeah, it would be classic. Yeah, it would be classic Thieves if they do end up losing here.
And I like the Boston Breach matchup versus Vegas Legion. I'm just saying. I don't want to get ahead of myself, but I'm just saying. I like that matchup.
You're predicting Boston get a top 6 if they go through.
I mean, you just got to stack the wins. Once one happens, it's a lot easier to stack them. We know how that goes, Pat.
I hear you, but I just think that the round 1 matchup is going to be too tough for you guys to get there.
Bro.
But I respect the dedication.
Look, it's all about just staying optimistic. We know. Look, I've won with both of you guys at different times. It's all about being optimistic. You got to, no matter what happens, when the going gets tough.
We hear you.
But Doug, with us on your team, you never went 0-6, 0-7 in a stage or in anything before. Like, we were fighting back the whole time.
Losing every game 5. Look, Doug, we're going to move Thieves here forward, but when we get back after Major 3 on the next episode of Reverse Sweep, if we were wrong and Breach gets top 6, top 4, you'll have your moment to rub it in our face. Absolutely.
Fair enough.
But next series, we got the Surge against the Rocker. I'm just going to lead this one. I don't think this was going to be close. I think Rocker are terrible. They have only 50% of their team can play well at any one given time. So I'm going to go ahead and say Surge is winning this. I have Rocker going out stat at top 12 and hopefully making a roster change. Because this is one of the teams that is actually pretty comfortable in the standings. They lead right now. They're in 5th place. I think they lead by like 15 points or so from this middle of the pack group. But I think they're going to require a roster change to solidify their champ spot. But I do have them getting top 12 this weekend.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat. I think Rocker are just not good enough. Kind of feel bad for Standy again. I think Standy's been really good. He's had, a couple of maps here and there where he just doesn't play too well, but I think the team dynamic is just absolutely horrible. He's playing with literally 2 of the slowest ARs in the fucking game, in the league. They're just doing them no favors, man. They just don't look good enough. Their hard points are freaking abysmal. Seattle's actually been looking a lot more competitive in their respawns, and they're good at search, which Minnesota doesn't really have anything that they're good at. I think they're okay at control. Outside of that, it's looking grim. I'm going to take the Seattle Surge here as well.
I agree. I think Seattle Surge, from what I've been seeing, they've been looking really well in a lot of different ways. So Rocker to me does have a lot of holes, I would say, in the way that their game is played. And I think it's going to be easy for a team like Seattle Surge to just find a rhythm versus it. And I'm going to take Seattle Surge in the series 3-1.
Let's move them forward. Last series on, I believe this will be Friday, Royal Ravens against Gorillas. Chris, I know you're a big LAG guy, but they've looked pretty rough. So I'm going to go with Royal Ravens here. I just don't have enough faith in this Gorilla squad. They're too inconsistent. And I know LAN has been their place where they found success, but I just don't think it's happening, and I think Ravens have got this one in the bag.
Yeah, I think this is just a tough matchup for LAG because as much as I'm a fan, I think these two teams have had a lot of potential in terms of like getting top 6. I think they have looked better with Flames. online. They still are struggling online, but these guys get better on LAN. I think Connor, Diamond Con, who has had a rough stage, gets better on LAN as well. However, they're playing against another team that I think just gets better on LAN. Like this is a matchup that we haven't seen on LAN because both of them avoid each other on the opposite side of the bracket. They both get top 6 at the 2 majors, and then they lose to a top 4 team. But we're finally getting to see both of these teams that everyone expects to get better on LAN because of prior performances play in that first round. That is tough. As much as I like LAG, I think Ravens edged them out slightly in that like LAN top 6 bubble. And they're just going to take it, and LAG is going to go home sad.
I have to agree as well, just because Carolina to me is a true good team. Like they do have their one player with Gwinn, who's the next superstar, and you have Clay, who's the veteran leader, right? But it's just the dynamic of the team to me. I think LAG's dynamic has had a lot of issues throughout the entire season as well. And even though they did bring in Flames and he's been bringing them the boost, I don't know. I just really see Carolina being able to make a run, and I just think Carolina's a pretty solid team. So
yeah,
if they do lose to OpTic, I could easily see them bouncing back against LAG and just fixing right up into form. You know, like when we see Miami Heretics and they drop from the winners to the losers, and they have to play against Vegas Legion, we're sitting there, we're thinking, I don't know, they don't have the confidence. But when you have like Clay and TJ and Fellow, and they'll lose a first round series to OpTic, I know they're going to reset. I know they're going to play well versus that next team. And I think LAG is a fantastic matchup for them. So I think this is going to go the way of Ravens as well. And I'm going to say 3-1.
Alrighty. Well, that's our top 8. I'm pretty confident with those. That looked good so far. Now we get into the, Saturday games. And these are going to be good. Finally, more top 4 matchups. Unfortunately, this first one I don't think is going to be close. FaZe against New York. I just see FaZe running over this New York squad. I don't know about you guys, but I'm probably going to go 3-0 here. I just think this is a great matchup for FaZe, and if FaZe continue to play the way they've been playing, FaZe 3-0.
FaZe are just on another level. I mean, that's going to be the conversation pretty much every single one of their matches. I think this major, they just look incredible online. People are saying this is the best version of FaZe we've ever seen. People are saying they're better than Cold War FaZe, blah, blah, blah. New York has just been struggling. I think they're lucky to get a win on the board against Thieves, who have looked a lot hotter here going into this major. Maybe that instills some confidence to put up a fight against FaZe. All I can really hope for here is a competitive series, but I still got FaZe taking this one.
Yeah, it's going to be a 3-1 or a 3-0 for FaZe. I just, no offense to New York Subliners, I just can't see any team in this tournament beating FaZe. Just what we know from FaZe in the past on LAN, year in and year out, how they get better as the year is going on in this game. Drazah seems to be a fantastic fit. Same thing I said at the last major when they won it. The confidence is oozing. The team is flowing. There's no weakness. It's just the best well-oiled machine we've seen in Call of Duty in a very long time. And it's no disrespect to Subliners, but this is going to be a 3-0 or a 3-1 for FaZe. And I would love to see an upset. I'd love to see FaZe have to fight through the losers bracket at this tournament. But to me, I just don't see FaZe losing.
Yeah, I think they got winner bracket final on lock. And then the really good series, Ultra against OpTic. Rematch here and there, but I think this is going to be almost the decider for who ends up top 2 at this event. I'm interested to see what you guys think. I'm going to say Ultra win this. I'm going to say they win this going the distance. It's not going to be clean. It's going to be a hard-fought battle. But I got Ultra at their home event, upsetting OpTic in a Game 5. I'm going to say it's going to go 6-4. Not going round 11. I got Ultra moving on.
I'm going to say close to you, Pat. I'm going to say Ultra 6-3 Game 5, just because, like you said, it is their home major. I think they're going to come out with that confidence. And I think, to me, OpTic's been kind of smooth sailing throughout the entire year, very consistent at the top. And they did ice up versus Toronto in the last time they played on that Skid Row hardpoint with Shotzzy going huge. But ultimately, I do think Envoy has to prove a lot this event, and I think that he knows this, and I think he will. So I just really see Ultra coming out hot, and it's going to go far, and I do think it will go to a Game 5, 6-3, and I think Ultra's going to win.
So no, I'm going to say my piece, even though it doesn't matter for the bracket. I know you guys are all hopeful about like bounce backs and like home events, stuff like that, but I still think just OpTic objectively as a team, regardless of how sloppy their matches have been, Toronto's have been the same. They looked better against FaZe, and that's my litmus test. They also just like have consistent players. I think Shotzzy has been really good so far since the last
Online.
stage. Either way, he's been good. Kenny has been good. He's playing up to stage 1 Kenny performances at times. Dashy's been good. Pred has been good. Like from a slaying standpoint, from a performance standpoint, all of them have been good. While whenever I look at the Ultra, it's like Scrappy, absurd. Kleenex has his moments, and then Envoy and Insight are just so up and down that like I'm just not confident in them being able to put it together. As much as they have advantages like the home event and stuff like that, and maybe they get some fire underneath them. I'm just going to say OpTic take it, just because they objectively look like their team is better, and the players are just performing better. It's close though. I won't deny that.
Do you think Ultra have the advantage in control? Because I do.
Yes, they do.
And
they do.
And I would say
OpTic has the advantage in search, and then the hard point.
They do. I agree.
Probably even.
But I feel like there's no way Ultra lose both hard points in this series. That's why I'm almost predicting a guaranteed game 5, because I feel like Ultra will likely win their hard point pick. OpTic will win theirs. OpTic probably takes map 2. Ultra takes map 3, and then we go to a game 5.
They just need to. Toronto just need to get good at search, bro. They are fucking terrible at search, and
they just got to win one though, Chris.
Scrap. Insight's falling off a cliff in search. Scrap has just not been good at search this year, like at all, which is insane because I feel like he's a good search player. He's always playing chows and stuff like that. I just don't know what it is, but in matches he just can't put it together in that mode. So yeah, I don't know. I'm scared for them. Even if it doesn't go game 5. But they got a chance. You guys got Toronto moving on, but I think OpTic would take it.
Moving on to the lower bracket here, we got Vegas Legion versus LA Thieves. Personally, for me, guys, I think Thieves is going to cruise through this up into this OpTic series here. I just feel like they're a very complete team right now. I think that they've shown signs on LAN, they've shown signs online, and Vegas. I still think that they have some issues, and I think when they went through their roster change and they brought Asim in, and then obviously it didn't go well, and then they brought in Johnny, and they had one match where it went game 5 with Boston, and it just seems to me that Thieves is really finding a flow and a form right now, whereas Vegas is still trying to find their way. So for me, I think Thieves will win this one 3-1, maybe even 3-0, because their S&D looks great as well. And I just really like this Thieves roster right now, personally, guys. I could see them doing really well at this event.
This is damn near a challenger matchup, bro. Like basically all of LAT at points were basically challengers. They all got picked up. People were on FaZe Black Academy. People were on the European War team. And then Vegas was Geo and challengers, and Johnny just come from challengers. I'm like, this is almost a challenger matchup outside of Attach and Nero. Just given the experience I think Vegas have, I think they have the potential to push this forward. But I will say that LAT just look like a much better team this split. If they're going to make a run at an event, it's going to be this event. So I'm going to have them moving forward just because I still think Vegas is still trying to iron out issues, get back into form. And Thieves is way more put together. If they're able to get, a little confidence win against Breach, right? Get some energy in there. They might just beat the fuck out of Vegas.
I think they will beat the fuck out of Vegas. I got Thieves moving on here to match up against OpTic. I think this is a great matchup for Thieves. And yeah, I think Thieves are going to lock in a top 6. Next series is the Royal Ravens against the Surge, Seattle Surge. I think this is going to be
your thoughts, Pat, on this.
This is going to be I think a really deciding series for this Ravens squad. Chris, you kind of hinted to it before. Ravens has dodged a lot of the good teams in their little loser bracket runs that they've managed to get top 6 at major events before. The Seattle Surge is a solid squad to play against. I feel like I've seen Seattle be too inconsistent online. And so I'm going to go with Ravens here. I think some days we get a good Seattle Surge, and then some days it's like, who the hell is this Seattle Surge? And they just get shit on. So for those reasons, I'm going to say Royal Ravens lock this up and move on to play the Subliners.
Yeah, I'm going to say Ravens again, continue their hot streak of placing top 6 at tournaments. The funny thing is, if this bracket plays out, like when we go on to talk about the Ravens and Subliners match, there's a good opportunity for them to win against that match because they've had their number. But I think Ravens are going to take another top 6 if they're managed to deal with their first match, just because I feel like they're going to match up well versus Seattle. And I don't know what it is about Ravens, bro. It's like a lot of people like roast them and we say they're ass, but they're like ass in relative to like the top 4 teams. But when it comes down to like the bottom side of the teams and then the LAN environment, stuff like that, I feel like they're a put together team. They do lose series and they're not the best, but like I feel like a lot of their series look the same. And even if Gwinn doesn't have a 1.4, Gwynn's pretty damn consistent. And then it's just really reliant on whether Clay or Fellow can play good. If one of them can play really well, even if the other one isn't playing the best, I feel like they just check a lot of boxes when it comes down to beating teams. They've gone so much better at search. They actually win that game mode now. Their hard point and their control's always been okay. They win games even without massively overslaying or anything like that. They know how to play COD. Like they just have to execute, it feels like. And on LAN, they're just so much more likely to do so because of that veteran mentality that they all have.
I think it's mainly just their slaying inconsistencies, Chris. I think that's what always kind of bites them in the ass when we talk about them.
Yeah, but with Seattle, I feel like Seattle just plays such unstructured Call of Duty that like if Seattle's going to get it done, it's going to be through winning the S&Ds and then just squeaking out like a hectic respawn, which they might be able to considering the maps that, what is it called? Ravens like to play, but I don't see it happening. I'm going to say Ravens win this and they continue their hot streak of at least getting top 6 at majors.
I feel like Carolina is going to Neslo in this series. I don't know what it is about
the Ravens
Seattle.
Is going to Neslo the S&D team.
I think they're just going to win the Game 5 search. I think they're going to win like a 2-3-5 here. I feel like Seattle, I don't know. It's just a weird matchup, but I'm just going to take Carolina in this one 3-2 simply because I like this Carolina team and I really want to see this next matchup as well between Carolina and New York Subliners. So I don't know if you guys want to go from the bottom to the top or if you guys want to start at the top here, but I
stay in the bottom.
We could stay at the snake draft because I really want to see this matchup. And I think Carolina versus New York, I want to see Carolina get to the top 4. I want to see something exciting happen here. I want to see one of these top 4 teams get upset in this tournament. I think it will happen. And unfortunately for New York Subliners, I feel like this might be their doomsday. This might be their boogeyman moment where they sit here and they go, damn.
Not again.
It happened again.
They'd be the one top 14 to have it to twice.
Yeah, and I think this is the time it's going to happen because Carolina, again, when you have that facility for the first time in the year, when you have something to prove, when you have a pretty good team and you have a player who's playing at like a superstar, and he already did versus this team online, it's one of those things. I don't know about you guys, but if I had to play against a player who went God mode on me, mentally, it would definitely be sitting in my head, and I would just hope that one of my teammates, if that player, like in this case it's Gwinn, was starting to pick up momentum, I would hope it wouldn't compromise my teammates. That's all I'd be thinking about, and I just feel like Carolina's a very superstitious team, and I think that they're going to be able to edge out New York in this. And again, I think they're just going to continue a streak of 3-2s, Game 5s, Neslos here and there, a player icing up, clutching up, and I think they're going to be able to squeeze their way into this top 4.
I don't know. Squeezing themselves into the top 4. Wait, which team were you talking about, Doug?
Subliners against Ravens. And no, I hear you, Doug.
That's not.
I think it's possible, but I'm just afraid of there being a talent diff. Because we saw this when they played last time. Like Gwinn had to be no bullshit. When he played them, he had maybe the best series I've ever seen. Like it was an insane takeover. I just don't see that happening again. So I just think there's going to be a talent diff. I think there's too many slaying inconsistencies on the side of the Ravens, and I agree New York has their issues, but I just don't see them being able to beat them, and I don't think they're going to Neslo them either.
Yeah, I don't think that's happening. Unfortunately for Ravens, I think the tradition is just going to, it's going to keep being a tradition. They're going to get top 6. They're going to lose the Subliners, but I will say that Ravens have had Subliners' number. I just can't see Subliners losing to Ravens 3 times, like in a season. It's been like what? I'm pretty sure it's like 3 times that they would lose if they lost this again.
When was the first time? The second time was the Gwinn absolute masterclass. When was
the terminal hard point?
Didn't they beat them at the first major? They beat them at the first major. They
to
beat
eliminate them.
They
eliminated them. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that was cheese, though. Wow, that's so long
terminal
ago.
Hard point, Pat.
Exactly.
Yeah,
I don't see it happening again. I will say that would be an insane Cinderella story to see them get a top 4, and maybe who the fuck knows what else could happen after that. But Yeah, man. The Ravens are definitely no slouch, especially in this matchup. So that would be the ideal road for them to push this even further in the top 6. But I think New York are going to bounce back, and they're going to look at least like a plausible team at this tournament. I don't see them really getting any further than this, though.
Yep. And on the flip side, similarly, I have OpTic moving forward. I think Thieves will have fought a good battle and got top 6. I mean, we kind of saw what happened on Sunday where Thieves just got basically talent diffed in the respawns. OpTic, they just can't keep up with their slaying. And, granted that control was close, but it was kind of like an OpTic throw and then a Thieves throw. I think there's a talent diff issue here with these top 4 teams and everybody else. So I got OpTic moving on to lock in a top 4.
I have to agree with you guys. I just think OpTic is just a better team overall. I just really do think that they're just one of the best teams in the game, and they did look really good versus Thieves today. Again, they were actually putting on Vista hardpoints. So I just think that this is the time when OpTic's going to just comfortably win a series and probably 3-1 and go into this New York matchup. And I think it's going to be the same result. I think OpTic's just going to win this 3-1 versus New York Subliners as well if we're just going to move right forward into this snake.
Go for it.
Yeah.
Chris, do you disagree with OpTic beating Thieves?
No.
Okay. Then yeah.
Did I just skip over you, Chris?
No, it's okay.
No, I just want to make sure he didn't disagree because I think we all kind of agree here, Doug. It's going to be OpTic, right? For OpTic for these next 2.
I think OpTic New York, you'll go to OpTic as well.
Yeah. I think again, this is almost similar. Like it's almost a skill diff with how Subliners have been looking and how OpTic's been looking. I think it's just end of the road. I think OpTic's just going to be better. I think they're better all around team than New York right now. And it's going to be a pretty clean win for OpTic. Chris, you agree?
Yeah.
Alrighty. To our top 3. We're here. FaZe
Finally.
Ultra, winner bracket final. What do we have?
FaZe. I know you're going to go Ultra. We've talked about this in the show.
Whoa,
already.
you both have FaZe.
Yes.
Okay. I'm just going to lead with, I think Ultra's going to upset here. I have FaZe winning the tournament, okay? I got FaZe winning it all. But I think Ultra's going to get a crazy little winner bracket final home event cheese upset against FaZe. But I understand you guys have FaZe. Makes sense. I just think there's an upset brewing. But we'll move FaZe forward to the grand final. FaZe have looked great. There's no denying that. They've looking like easily the best team in the game right now.
The only reason that Doug has Ultra upsetting here is because there is zero way that if we say Ultra drops down like the bracket is going to show right now, that Ultra beat OpTic. OpTic is beating Ultra.
Whoa! we have Ultra beating OpTic in the winners round 2. We just decided this.
You guys
Chris.
did.
But Chris, you even said it yourself. This is more 50-50 than people realize. Ultra will get 1 hard point and likely the control. OpTic will get 1 hard point and likely the game 2 S&D. This is going to come down to a game 5. Anything can happen in a game 5 on LAN.
OpTic's a better S&D team, and you say they got a guaranteed little hard point there. I don't, bro.
OpTic, I mean, Ultra's still really good at hard point.
Good. They are good. No, they're good.
But if you look at their hard point, they have the same record as OpTic does.
So you're saying I'm the deciding factor whether or not OpTic or Ultra moves on to the finals and plays FaZe here? Because it seems like Pat has Ultra and Chris has OpTic.
Yeah, give us an unbiased take, Doug.
Unbiased, I'm imagining myself in the stands watching this go down, and I'm just going to be thinking in my head the crowd is going to be split, but mainly OpTic, and I'm just going to think that OpTic is going to have a bounce back series against Ultra, and I think that they're going to have another repeated finals. It reminds me of Advanced Warfare in a sense from all those years back. When Atlanta FaZe and OpTic and FaZe were just playing the finals, how many events was it in AW? Like 5 or something like that?
It was a lot.
I just see it repeating again. I just see a FaZe OpTic finals again. They've both been the best teams online consistently. Obviously, Ultra has been improving and getting better and back to their form, but it just seems like OpTic, they have the clutch factor. They have the team. They have the dynamic. They have the roster they're looking for. Everyone seems, pretty much happy. They live for these moments. I think they would love to play Ultra in their home crowd on a championship Sunday with the green wall behind them as well. And I think it will go game 5. Again, I just think that these teams match up very well. And I ultimately think it's going to be another FaZe OpTic finals. And honestly, I think we're going to be repeating the same thing that we did last event. FaZe winning against OpTic, and it's not going to look that close.
Well, I will say, like Doug had it with Breach, and how the next episode, Doug will be able to rub it in our faces if Breach somehow win. I'm going to do the same if Ultra win this series. So we'll keep that in mind for the next episode of the reverse sweep. But I agree, Doug. I think no matter what happens in the loser bracket or even in the winner bracket of this tournament, I think this is FaZe's tournament to lose. They are by far the best team in the game right now. They look like they're on another level compared to everybody else. And so I think FaZe is going to be walking out of Major 3 with a championship and a back-to-back, which has been a little while since we've seen a back-to-back, right?
Yes.
Thieves? Was it Thieves and Vanguard?
Yeah. We didn't see one. Oh, no, we saw one last year with New York, didn't we? Never mind, I'm an idiot.
Yes, champs. The last major in champs.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think FaZe are on that trajectory. I think we all agree. I think even fans, can put their bias aside and say FaZe is on a completely other level than everybody else right now, and we'll be taking home Major 3.
Literally on another plane, bro.
Undisputed, we're not even going to argue this. I think FaZe is just the best team as well.
Yeah, it's going to take a switch up for other teams to catch up, I think, because they don't look like they're falling off. But we did get a lot of community questions, some good ones this time. Again, make sure you guys are subscribed, leaving comments, and asking your questions if you want us to feature them on the reverse sweep. Doug, do you want to read off what our questions are, and we'll see what we got?
Yeah, I mean, we have the first one that I'm seeing is saying, at least address this faded take. And I want to know what you guys think about this because we've all been around since day one. This is from Alex Clips. He said that Scump got to choose his team take is such a bad take. He played with Big Timer, Nade Shot, Embos, Merc, JCap, Proofy, Clacer, etc. for years. And that's no disrespect for those COD legends, but come on. When we're comparing those teammates to other top tier players, teammates, Scump isn't even close to the top of the list. He made the best of every team he had every year. And even if the talent on his team wasn't the best, I want to know what you guys think about this take.
Bro, I'm gonna be honest.
This is insane.
If Scump went to the quote unquote best teams in the world and said, "Yo, team with me," every single team would have left. If Scump went to Complexity and put aside whatever the hell he wanted to do and said, "Yo, Clay, Krim, Aches, whatever the hell, the Karma, fucking Killa, Mir, anybody that was ever like quote unquote better than him in his career," and said, "Yo, team with me," I guarantee everyone would have left. What?
Yeah, I think the problem with this take is you weren't around then. You're just looking at like a COD Esportspedia page. The reality is those are players Scump wanted on his team at that time. And let's be honest, like those rosters you just named out, those were all top 15 players in the game, right? Like at multiple stints.
Yes.
Those guys are by far very good players, especially relative to the teams that were made back then. The reality with Scump is, and not just Scump, but OpTic in general, is they basically every game got to pick the rosters they wanted. The time where you saw an OpTic dynasty happen is when they started buying players from other dynasty rosters, right? Like that's when it really started to shift and OpTic started to get a dynasty. But it was because they were buying off players from other teams that were dominating because they had built poorly constructed teams. And this doesn't just mean players and talent. There's roles. There's a lot of things that, as a fan, you watch and you don't understand what goes into a team building situation. But yeah, I think it's faded to think that Scump and OpTic didn't put together the roster they wanted almost every year.
There weren't insane contracts either. It was like a free for all. If they wanted them, they could have had them. And I'm sure like everyone, I would have if I got offered. I did. If I got offered, even if it wasn't with Scump, I saw OpTic and I was like, I'm down.
Like, you were on OpTic for what? All of like 3 days?
It was like a week.
Okay,
but I ultimately left because my team was ass, or like we were terrible, and I felt like I had a better winning opportunity somewhere else. It was a bad decision.
Yeah,
but at the end of the day,
I think it's also important, Chris, to mention like there were parts where being on OpTic wasn't the end all be all, right? And like BO2 and Ghost, that viewership buff or follower buff, it didn't turn into like actual money, right? Like it really didn't. And we were talking about days where the contracts and the salaries weren't to the point where, I I mean, I think our complexity team in 2013 was like the only team on salary that was getting $500 a month. And so winning meant everything to everybody back then. And so you wanted to build the best possible team you could to win. And that's just what happened. Yeah. But I agree. I think that take just lacks being there and being in the scene back then to understand what was really going down.
Yeah, you wouldn't understand.
I want to give you guys a story of my Codfather Vengeance, and he reminded me of this about a month ago on a FaceTime. He was telling me, because from the beginning of time when the pro circuit began in Black Ops 1,
he was on OpTic in 2010.
Vengeance was, and he won COD XP with them, right? He won COD XP, and he was at Vengeance was actually at the first tournament ever for OpTic Gaming on LAN, that MW2 National Championship.
Yep. He got smoked, but he was there.
He was there, and he was there on OpTic. And I remember in 2011, because he was playing with them on OpTic. The next year, he brings Next Threat back. He brings me on to Next Threat. I believe you won the first event of the year, and then OpTic won the second event of the year. So we're going into the third event of the year, and we lost to OpTic Gaming, and we got fourth. And they beat us 3-1. We gave them a really good game. They were just a better team. It was the big timer team with Rambo and I think like JCap and Merc or something. But we lost a close series. It was my first time on LAN outside of playing you guys where we lost. And I just felt like we had no chance, Pat. Like when we played you guys, it was a round 11 or a round 7 in S&D and our teammate got turned on and we should have beat you. But like when we played OpTic, it just felt like as you would watch them online, these guys are just the best, man. That's what I said to Vengeance. I was like, yo, OpTic and Envy, they just figure out a way of getting theirs. And then you had Scump on leverage with you. And I'm like, these guys just get theirs every event. And Vengeance told me at that time, he's like, Doug, if I ever hear you think like this ever again, you're not playing with me. And that was the moment my mindset switched. And I started to feed a lot into the idea of privilege and how a lot of other players around me, like you, like Scump, like the Envy players had privilege. And I felt like, I was like, who has the most privilege here? And it ended up being Seth because of his talent. And I started to realize that when you had to play against people who were just comfortably the best players in the game, running teams, doing things the way that they wanted to do them, they were able to play with whoever they wanted. And it was always a thought that I would have of, it must be really nice, man. Like imagine if we could do that. Pat, you were able to do it because you had a dynasty roster, but you didn't have
imagine
that.
If you could curate your roster.
Yeah, and like the only player, because even Pat, you couldn't even do that for as long as you would wish, right? Like I'm sure you wish you could have done it longer.
Chris. I mean, think about it. I had Fears and Bobby. Like I know we're talking about this, but in the start of BO2, it was me, T, Punisher, and Dodgers. Punisher and Dodgers quit. I got Fears and Bobby. Then I ended up getting Scump and Bobby. You know, like it just, I don't think people understand how roster building went back then. And you didn't have the ability to make whatever teams you wanted. Big T and Rambo and Merc and JCap, those guys were all godlike players and they wanted to play with each other, right? Like it wasn't like I could just be like, yo, Cap, come play with me. And he would have left. Like it didn't work like that back in the day.
OpTic just had a lot of loyalty. Like they had a fan base and like they had players that were essentially like long staple players for that roster. So getting rid of them and stuff like that was like more so like, let's say hypothetically Scump did want to make those changes and stuff like that. Like OpTic just probably didn't want to. Like in a hypothetical world, I obviously don't know how Scump thought of his roster or what he wanted to do.
When Scump got on OpTic in MW3, it was for, I forgot who they dropped. They dropped Proofy, I think, for him, or
something. I believe it was Proofy.
Maybe Cap. No, it was Cap.
It was Cap. Okay,
it was Cap.
Envy.
It was Cap or Proof. I know it was Big T, Rambo, and Merc, and either Proofy or Cap. Anyway, Scump left my team, joined that team. I'm pretty positive it was JCap because we picked JCap up. And then from there, like Scump wanted to play with Big T. He wanted to play with Rambo. He wanted to play with Merc. Those guys teamed all through that game. And then BO2 came out and they dropped Ray for Nade Shot. Like, because Nade Shot was like half competing in MW3. He competed in MW2 and then started like the real content creation stuff and sniping and was half competing in MW3. And then he came back in BO2 and they picked him up. And then
he had options, but also like I think Hex obviously played a big influence into like the shaping of like Scump's career and probably helped him make decisions because I'm sure even though like there could have been worlds where like if they wanted to go the winning route, they could have picked up players like Aches, picked up players like Crim, picked up players like Clay. Myself,
I think they got to a point where they did that. That's why they started buying out the team, and that got the
eventually they got
Formal, they got Damon, they got. I mean, most people don't know this, but when OpTic bought out my complexity roster, they bought everybody. They got TP and Damon, and for some reason put those guys on the B squad. OpTic
That was
Nation,
crazy. That was
and
crazy.
then that was a choice they made. They had TP and Damon. They could have put them on any roster they wanted, and they chose to put them on the B squad and made the main team with Krim, because they obviously got Krim in that deal. Got Krim and Formal and put them on the main team with Scump. Like, they've orchestrated almost every roster they've ever had.
They could have. They could have.
Yeah.
They just had different priorities. Like they wanted to keep like Nate Shot was obviously a big part of the organization. They wanted to keep him happy. They wanted to make sure that even though like, let's say Nade wasn't the best, they wanted to like keep him on. The roster,
Nade was part of the one. Nade was a part of the buying out my EG team though. Like he was a part of that. Like he probably paid money for that. That was not just Hex's money and OpTic's money. Like
you get the point.
Nade was very involved. Bottom line is OpTic has orchestrated every roster they've ever had, and they've put together the team that they wanted to put together.
I think the argument that people try to make here is that if Seth was running everything from day one, he would have more of everything that he'd want and more championships and more rings.
That would apply to every player in the history of Call of Duty.
That's my point too. Like Nate Shot,
it's not true. It's just a priority thing. Like the people that sorry, my bad, Doug. I don't want to cut you off, but it's just like the people that were on the roster were a cohesive decision between everyone based on their priorities at the time, whether that was winning or trying to find a balance between winning but keeping their creators happy, because obviously Nade and Scump and Big T and all those and Rambo even at the time, they had big followings and a lot of people loved them and like they wanted to like see them a part of the organization. And like it wasn't just about winning. It was about winning while also trying to do, like stuff like the YouTube and the content, stuff like that. Well, if they just went out and signed, anybody that was quote unquote good at the time, like imagine they just signed Killa, right? Because Killa was good. Like, yeah, Killa wasn't a content creator at the time. He didn't even like stream. It's like they wouldn't have been able to align their goals with the players that they could have signed.
Bro, if I could have picked up Mir instead of Too Quick, like I would have been fucking happy as hell. But it just didn't work. Like,
and it's the same
other
thing
teams didn't get the opportunity to do that.
It's like if Ricky Banks and Temper didn't drop me off FaZe and had your team, Pat, I would have dropped you going into champs and picked up Attach for you. And the Attach
we tried to get Attach. We couldn't. He had a buyout from that.
I was going to pay the buyout myself, actually. And it was going to be me / Apathy and Attach.
That guy would have took your money. That denial owner would have took your money and blocked you, bro. That was pure sketch business from that guy.
Yeah, but bottom line with this take, though, I think the bottom line for me is that Nade Shot played a huge part of growing OpTic by playing on the team. And I think they made that work with Nade Shot and Scump as long as it made sense for winning. And it was, because they were winning and doing well together. And then obviously Nade Shot decided to retire, and then Scump kind of just did everything he wanted. I mean, I think everything's true. He was one of the best players, if not the best overall player, and he was able to do everything he wanted, however he wanted to do it for the most part once Nade Shot retired, I would say. Because I think maybe he had different alignments for the first year or two with Nade, but from that point on, I mean, OpTic Gaming, no doubt, I mean, they're the only guys ever to be able to construct every roster however they ever wanted it. And it was a huge part because of Nade Shot growing the organization in the early days, in my opinion. So, I mean, at the end of the day, it was great for the scene. It was great for OpTic. It was great for everyone to grow everything to where it's at now. So I think everyone's winning from it.
Last question from Samir. What is the weirdest tech issues that have ever happened in an event? Sure, with so many PCs, consoles, there are unforeseen things that can pop up, like the Bluetooth that caused the Cronus issue or usage. I would probably say the Cronus thing. I think that's that first BO3 event when we switched to PlayStation. Was it PlayStation 4?
Yes.
For the first time. And bro, like none of us had seen this issue online, and then we get into a venue and our fucking like our camera on our characters started moving on their own when we were playing. I think is by far the biggest tech issue that Call of Duty's ever seen. I can't think of.
Bro, I didn't play a match until okay, imagine this. You get to the tournament on a Thursday, tournament starts on Friday. I didn't play my first match of the tournament until Sunday.
Yeah.
How fucking absurd is that? The final day of the tournament before my flight, I played my first match. What the hell?
And then we had to introduce a Cronus device, which Cronus's, I will say, got a lot better over time. But when they were first introduced, there was actual input delay in Cronus's. Yeah. Like those complaints were very real. Over time, they made software updates and the delay got much better. But when we first started out, it was like you were adding multiple milliseconds
I remember people were like,
your
should I play
normal
with the
input
Cronus
response.
or should I just take the risk and use the Bluetooth? Like, that's what people were literally deciding with. And some
'Cause it
people
was
would
bad.
take the risk because the fucking Cronus was so delayed.
That's the problem with that entire BO3 season that I hate, because I think that game could have had a better format if ESL didn't run it, because we had very limited number of tournaments. We had a really wonky format with like the two stages and the two events. So BO3 I think got shit on from a league format perspective, plus the Cronus and PS4 issues, which I think kind of shits on BO3's legacy, which makes that year of 2016 not as good as it otherwise probably would have been a great year, comparatively to all the other titles. But
Exactly.
Well,
yeah,
that's our bracket. We got FaZe versus OpTic again in the grand finals. We got FaZe winning, and that's all for us for the reverse sweep presented by PrizePicks. Download the app today and use code reverse sweep for a first deposit match up to $100. Appreciate you guys all watching. Good luck to all the teams in the major.
Bye. See you after
See you next week.
Toronto.
See you guys next week. Peace.